John McAfee is going to eat his dick. Hold on, let me do that again. In this episode, John McAfee is going to eat his dick.
I liked it better the first time. John McAfee, the man's going to eat his dick.
There we go.
This is... No, I'm sorry.
So here's the thing about the Democratic and Republican Party. Please don't stop listening. This will be the last time these two groups come up.
That's a damn lie, but it's okay. It'll be the last time in this episode, not on this podcast.
Last time in this episode. Last time in the series for sure.
Yeah.
The principles of both are begotten by compromise when introduced to open air. Sometimes that's because the lobbies get a hold of their ideas before they can be realized. Sometimes it's because the other party steps in to intervene on behalf of their own beliefs and those of the lobbyists we just mentioned. Sometimes people catch on and realize, often in secret, that their ideas exist solely to determine who their friends are and who their enemies are. And if these ideas made their way into the real world and were put into practice, nature would just shit all over them. But not libertarians. Libertarians are dying to put their ideas into practice. American libertarianism is sort of like if someone began trying to govern with the Boy Scouts of America handbook. Like, sure, there's some good stuff in there, but a lot of sexual impropriety was exercised on those little boys. It's an entire ideology composed of people pretending they know what they're doing. Poor to moderately wealthy libertarians can be seen pretending they know what they're doing in Home Depot. Witness. Outside of the garden department, a man puts 10 bags of mulch in the back of his Cybertruck to prove it can haul just like a regular pickup truck. While tugging his shopping cart, he passes another libertarian who is loading 4 toilets into the backseat of a Buick LeSabre, completely unaware that toilets come in different sizes and that the gravel loading down his trunk will not work for a driveway. That's power plant and construction site gravel, Chip. And stop telling people you're spending a PPP loan on this. I thought you were small government.
Yeah, the farther we get away from PPP loans, the more like fraud they seem to be.
Everyone did crimes with those.
But it was your $1,200 check that made the economy fall apart. Thanks a lot, Joe Biden.
Periodically, conservatives will dip their toe into the libertarian water as well. Out of your left window, you'll see Ben Shapiro stupidly holding up an 8x1 plank in a plastic Home Depot bag as his giant-breasted sister takes a picture.
So many silly protests, so many sweaty dads gearing up to electrocute themselves this Christmas, and so many girlfriends that look suspiciously like daughters. Also, quick aside, we aren't referencing Home Depot enough in this podcast so far. They should be paying us for this.
They should be. But behold, there is another type of libertarian. And we think this one is the most interesting. He is the incredibly wealthy libertarian who blames all the stupid regulators for getting in people's way. This is the libertarian who will spend tens of millions on a civilization that floats above the ocean and put it in the waters of some military dictatorship. Crypto will be a part of it, but don't think about it too hard. Then the prototype structure will collapse before it can debut, or the founders will have to flee Thailand. Or both of those things.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a real story until I just read that was a real story. But that sounds like a summer blockbuster where Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson plays some seminal role.
And Jonah Hill's in there too for some reason.
Oh God, for some fucking reason.
Sometimes the vision is more practical. Perhaps a libertarian utopia in rural New Hampshire. Then bears come and ruin everything.
This is also a real story, and maybe we'll do a future episode on these. Who knows? We're just going by the seat of our pants.
Right. Sometimes this person dies in an imploding submarine at the bottom of the ocean, which we've all heard about recently. And sometimes these rich libertarians aren't as rich and just want to try shit out, and they're tired of being bossed around. Sometimes they wind up in a Spanish prison, like the subject of this series, John McAfee.
Yes! John McAfee.
John McAfee.
John McAfee. You may be wondering, why are Money Mike and Rat Bill talking about politics again? Didn't they already do that with the Cokes?
Didn't they promise this was out of their system?
Yeah, and it was.
Also, I don't remember promising that. So, refer back to the last episode or whenever it was. But we promised this time. We're done.
The thing here is, with few exceptions, John McAfee is just a phenomenal embodiment of all the libertarian philosophies that he espouses. In many ways, But in one key way, he, like so many fundamentalists, has been eaten and shat out by social Darwinism.
Yeah, why is it that the loudest voices in that line of thinking are the ones that just have not made the cut on their own self-professed great moderator? Anyways, it's here at the start of our third episode on The Man that we find John McAfee. $96 million swallowed whole, like the fortunes of so many other libertarians, by divorce and idiotic business decisions. He's fled or left the country. I'm Rad Bill.
And I'm Money Mike.
And... Okay, so it's been a while since we've covered this, but we're here to put John McAfee to the test using our PR torture test acronym. Money, do you want to do the crutches?
Yeah. The C stands for consumer harm. The R stands for rich parents. The U stands for union suppression and employee abuse. The T stands for tax evasion, often disguised as charity. The second C stands for child labor accusations. The H stands for harassment allegations. The E stands for egregious behavior after hours. And the S stands for slap suits and journalist suppression.
Yes. So we begin our story. Allison Adonisio is 30 years old at the start of 2010. She's a postdoc at Harvard in Belize for 2 weeks thanks to a free ticket and with her guitar skills, which have been paying room and board thanks to the audience of tourists she finds visiting the resorts in town. One audience member of an impromptu Adonisio concert strikes up a conversation with her after the show about her postdoc and past work. There's been research happening on anti-quorum agents all over the place. And as it happens, that is what Adonisio has been digging into at Harvard. Basically, these chemicals, when released, prevent cell division from happening. And if people could figure out how to give these agents a shelf life and make them non-toxic to humans, they could cure some really tricky illnesses. So after getting to know each other, the stranger offers her an opportunity. Let me finance an operation down here for you. Come live in Belize and build something big here on this anti-quorum stuff with me, John fucking McAfee.
Now, the guitarist had a lot going for her in Cambridge, a house in Cambridge, a significant other tied to the area, and lastly, a grant to do the exact same kind of work at Harvard.
Yeah.
But picture it. This suave tech entrepreneur with tribal tattoos is in Belize. This is where true dreams begin.
Yeah.
So Allison did the unthinkable and told Harvard where to shove it. She sold her house, killed her significant other, and left for Belize.
Yeah, that second to last part was a joke. She didn't kill anyone, but it's here that you have to balance the horror of this situation with the incidental collateral damage style comedy of it all.
Yeah, what we take away from this is the elevated position that this woman was in prior to her meeting John McAfee. And we'll see where her meeting John McAfee takes her very shortly.
Yeah, right. One of the great tragedies of this is just the allure we all find in the unassuming millionaire/billionaire. The guy in t-shirts and shorts sitting on a beach saying, you know, McAfee antivirus? Yeah, I sold that for an ungodly amount. And in your brain, you just register billions of dollars, which wouldn't be unreasonable. So she's under the spell. Shortly after the two get started on this project and release their first product, Topic QX, Fast Company releases an article claiming that McAfee sold the boat he took to Belize to the Belizean Coast Guard in an effort to keep them from causing trouble for the water taxi business he intended to start.
Maybe she already knew this, but if I were John McAfee's partner, ditching a Harvard education, finding this out would be deeply concerning.
Yeah.
Suddenly, my wealthy tech entrepreneur benefactor seems far less wealthy and far less savory as well. The mystery is gone. And the t-shirts he wears start to feel a lot more like he wears them because they're the only clothes he owns.
Yes. The article also alleged that this first product of theirs was sort of suspicious, and we think they're onto something here, actually. Topic QX is supposed to be a new antibacterial, but instead of water, Cormex is transferring these active ingredients in alcohol, which is also an antibacterial, coincidentally enough, and was probably causing the burning that they pointed to as proof that the compound was working. We love antiseptics that hurt when you put them on. It's like humanity's favorite fucking thing.
It is kind of satisfying, though. Like,
isn't it? Just like you're kicking that cut's ass. Like you have a little splinter on your hand or something, and you put it in, and something in the back of your mind's like, that'll fucking teach you. Take that!
It's like putting salt in a canker sore.
Yep.
Like, this hurts so bad, it has to be medically significant.
It has to be.
I've never read anything that says that it is. I don't know what the mechanism is, but goddamn, I feel like I'm doing some work to this canker sore.
Yeah, and you've already, like, in your mind made the canker sore an enemy to be conquered. And in that moment, you feel like you have so much power over that little fucker. Oh. So after this article came out, John met a journalist from Gizmodo who sought to add some additional context and perhaps even defend their product. And while the journalist was being carted in from the airport to see their operation, John decided it would be a good laugh if he pretended to be a crazy old man. The journalist and Doug Maxwell, Cormex's VP of Corporate Development, were riding from the airport in their little golf cart. I think that's how a lot of folks get around on Belize. And Doug explains that there are a ton of strange folks in the area, like this old guy, he says, and pulls over to give the bumbling old blonde-haired man a ride. When the old man hops on the golf cart, he removes the sunglasses he's wearing and the wig to reveal that he, in fact, is John McAfee. Hilarious!
What I love about this bit is it is entirely dependent on them knowing what he looks like fairly intimately. Like, imagine sitting in a golf cart and there's like this weird old guy that smells slightly like rum and vodka who like takes off a wig and sunglasses and is somebody else, and you still don't know who it is.
Yeah, he's like... He's lighting fires on the curb with little pieces of trash and muttering to himself about bath salts. We in the business call that foreshadowing.
and then he looks at you like, huh? And you're like, what the fuck is this crazy old person doing other than acting crazy with props? What is going on?
Like, pretending to be a crazy old man is pretty typical crazy old man behavior.
Yeah, like...
You don't fully recover from that. You don't
become a really unreliable narrator when the whole basis of the character is being unreliable.
Right, you take off the wig and you're like, I'm kidding. I'm an old guy who bought a wig for this bit. That's crazy. If a 60-year-old man jumped out of a bush and startled you in the middle of the night and then assured you they were just kidding around, you would still think they were fucking nuts. They're crazy. That's crazy people shit.
I think this is why people are quick to make a joke about acting stupid, but really careful about pretending to be crazy. Because, like, once you do, it's really hard to get crazy back in that jar, you know?
It really is. Even like a hint or like talking to the voices in my head. People are like, wow, let's earmark that.
That adds context to all of our future interactions.
So the article's author is pretty unhinged too, by the way. John takes off the wig and glasses and pretty immediately begins bemoaning the fact that the journalist doesn't have any open wounds they can treat with Topic QX. Again, really not doing himself any favors on this whole, like, lucidity test. The journalist, to meet John halfway, cuts both arms in an unspecified way that makes them bleed profusely and begins applying Topic QX to just one of them.
Wait, what article or what publication? Was this Gizmodo?
This is Gizmodo.
Yeah, isn't Gizmodo, like, tech Vice News?
Kind of. It's a little like Vice was much more on the edgy side. Gizmodo, I read a bunch from Gizmodo just doing research for these fucking people. And this is as off the deep end as I've ever seen Gizmodo.
No, because like that's some fucking Vice News journalism right there.
Straight up.
Like that's some like, oh, do you want to do crank with this Afghani crank manufacturer? Yeah. All right, I'm a Vice journalist. We have fun at work.
I was studying a gay utopia, and in my studying, I inadvertently became the mayor of this gay utopia.
What I learned about viral marketing by becoming the mayor of a gay utopia. Read more on LinkedIn.
Right?
That's funny. I'm sorry.
The writer then notes that the solution had a considerable burn, but even in this, kind of puff piece, the author, bleeding profusely when they recorded this or noted it, admits that this probably had a lot to do with the alcohol concentration. At the end of the week, neither arm is infected.
Because the air is, I guess, that clean in Belize. Also, alcohol is an antiseptic.
It is interesting that they cut both arms and put the alcohol stuff on one and the other's just fine. That really does say some shit about the air or something down there. So, reading this article, you can see the early stages of two things that are going to become pretty pervasive and that complement each other a great deal. And we didn't really touch on the first one, but it's going to become pretty pervasive throughout this entire episode. And that is John McAfee's lingering paranoia.
Oh, yeah.
Donating My Freedom, his catamaran to Belize, a tragically illustrative thing on the next 10 years of John McAfee's life, was viewed as pretty scandalous in the area, and he was ambushed by fascinated members of the press about the decision. This rattled McAfee, and he later attributed the incident in part to the influence of Big Pharma, ever vested in seeing his scrappy herbal startup die. Ultimately, the paranoia that made him rich so many years ago would soon see John convince himself that he was being followed. And this was a catalyzing event in that line of thinking. In an effort to combat these perceived stalkers, John spent every waking hour for 6 months sitting at the same bar, suspiciously gauging his surroundings.
To add a little more context that I'm not sure if you all remember from the last episode, several of John's companies came under fire for surveilling their customers. And John also, according to John, was part of several NSA operations, which...
Oh, yeah. CIA stuff.
One of those acronym
freaky, secretive, MK Ultra organizations.
Yeah, so a bunch of main character syndrome combined with a bunch of alleged experience and the ability of people to surveil you, combined with a lot of, well, we'll get to the rest of that later, create a pretty paranoid person. It was a very, very important part of who he was at this time.
And kind of proof in the pudding that he couldn't flip it off. He couldn't turn this thing off. It wasn't just a moneymaker. It is who he is.
Well said. But anyway, during all of this paranoia, Adenizio, the Harvard-educated guitarist that partnered with John, would end up leaving Quorum X and would allege that after an argument, John drugged and, trigger warning here, raped her as well.
You mentioned something earlier, which astutely brings us to the second thing that you really see beginning to emerge here. And I'm sure in the past it had helped him a great deal, but this is where it really starts to hurt him and begin proliferating into everything he does and says. And that's his main character syndrome and his desire to be an action hero above all else. He was quoted as saying, "One of the largest tragedies I see of life as I see it is the use of power to collect wealth." And I'm not talking about individuals, a very annoying aside, but collectives, governments, America, Russia, the developed world.
So two things are happening here. One, John McAfee is saying this quote and imagining that it will be the centerpiece of this very gracious article demonstrating his somber brilliance.
Yes.
And second, John is bemoaning the influence of collective wealth from the porch of his home in Belize, where the government is small, just how he likes it, and where his $4 million spends a lot like $4 billion.
Yes.
In Belize, John will gain a reputation for threatening and chasing away those who sought out to enjoy the public beach in front of his compound and surrounding the house with a dozen vicious guard dogs like a fucking cartel boss.
Yes, and hey, Rad Bill, Money Mike, these are millionaire activities, not billionaire activities. We hear you. Now consider the favor McAfee gets for donating his boat to the newly established Coast Guard in Belize. A boat worth a few $1 million is laughable to any other military body, but in Belize, it procures a considerable amount of favor, as does a modest equipment donation to the police department, which he also makes. He also supposedly supported a great deal of the taxi drivers in the area, paying them the $150 fare required to deliver very young girls from the airport and from wherever else in Belize to his house. Apparently, his behavior got even weirder following a raid of his home in April 2012. You see, in 2012, it was believed that McAfee had a second off-campus lab in the midst of his compound that was being used to manufacture methamphetamines and was being managed by one of his very young girlfriends. So this lab is raided, and it was raided because John, who had publicly championed his sobriety for almost 3 decades, made a huge mistake. He went on a blog called Blue Light, which was frequented by recreational drug users. Keep in mind, he's theoretically sober right now, and told everyone that he was using the lab to manufacture drugs that he intended to sell. Big misstep in the world of drug dealers, John. He later said that this and his years of endorsing and vividly describing the perks and drawbacks of the bath salt alpha PHP, which is incredibly addictive and causes days of vivid hallucinations, was just a fun prank, all in the name of fun. In response to his funny, lighthearted gags, his mainland compound was raided and 4 of his dogs were killed. John, who was at once armed, 67, and completely naked, was arrested at the door while a 17-year-old girl watched in terror from his bed. No. I know. Yeah. That gets him the second C, right? For sure?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Authorities weren't able to find any drugs, but they did find a pretty huge cache of weapons.
Yeah, John would catch a weapons charge for this, but never suffer any consequences. That'll be a theme here, and why John loves small governments, because he can buy them.
Bingo. That's exactly right. Small inept governments are really fucking cheap to buy.
Yeah.
Now, the authorities not finding drugs doesn't mean John McAfee wasn't doing drugs. It might mean the police got there too late and John and his 17-year-old lover had already done all of the drugs. In fact, according to the head of the unit that raided his compound, they did find large blocks of what looked like drugs, but they were tested and were determined to not be cocaine or methamphetamines, so no charges for John. Keep in mind, small government. Now, although he got off scot-free, this experience would change John McAfee. The once creepy, unhinged hermit was now a creepy, unhinged hermit with at least 2 armed, often gang-affiliated guards joining him wherever he went. He began feuding with a neighbor, and a few months later, when a few more of his dogs were allegedly poisoned, John allegedly paid a man in his security detail just $5,000 to go and kill this person, his neighbor, Gregory Fall.
Yeah, money spends differently in Belize. Most of the information about this alleged murder over these dogs came from a documentary that I'm always hesitant to cite a documentary because a documentary's first purpose is like us. You know, we're here to entertain and then inform.
Yes.
But they made a pretty compelling case. And John's behavior and reaction after this alleged murder and kind of how all that plays out, that's a very, like, translucent, allegedly. Like, he probably got this guy killed.
Right? It's another one of those where we're really saying it to avoid going to court. There is not a lot of uncertainty here. Like,
yeah.
I've run out of ways to steal Netflix, which is too bad. But I was reading a breakdown of a few of the interviews for that documentary, Gringo, The Dangers of John McAfee, where the way these interviews were going, the subjects of the interviews were blowing the lid off of these things without clear indication they knew they were blowing the lid off of it. Like, someone off camera was like, did you hear that John McAfee killed his neighbor, Gregory Fall? And the person would be like, yeah, well, you know how word travels around there. Did John McAfee kill his neighbor? Well, candidly, I don't think he did. It was more of he paid someone to kill the neighbor for him. type thing. Yeah, that's what happened.
In one of the documentaries, and I can't remember which one it was, they kept going back to the fact that this was over the dogs. I mean, obviously, I love dogs, and any crime against the animal is terrible. But they were kind of alluding, like, I mean, yeah, he killed him, but, like, he killed his dogs. Like, eye for an eye kind of thing, right?
And it's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, he killed someone.
Yeah. He killed a guy. The guy was shot.
Yeah, it's one of those am I the asshole posts on Reddit where you're like, I think everybody here just kind of sucks, but one person sucks worse.
And one person sucks, and one person is like a fugitive.
And one person has committed a capital crime.
Yeah. We were pretty careful, to Money Mike's point, with this documentary, as we are with all documentaries, just because of how sensationalized they can be for the sake of getting clicks, getting views, you know the rest. We were pretty careful to look into it before relying on it to any degree. According to that documentary and to some other sources we found, this wasn't even the only murder that John McAfee commissioned, and that comes from multiple involved parties.
Yeah.
He allegedly also hired a squad to allegedly kill David Middleton, who broke into his house. We were careful about using this as a source because there were allegations that sources were paid for the intel they provided to Showtime, which produced the film.
Yes.
Before the film's release, videos were posted of interviewees claiming that they were paid by the production team for their time on camera, and Showtime denies this. And according to the director, she actually called the man allegedly involved in Fall's killing, and he stated in a recording call, this is one of the people kind of nonchalantly blowing the lid off shit, that in fact, John McAfee had paid him $1,200 to state that he was paid by Showtime for the interview.
It's Inception interview pay.
Right.
Like, no, I'm going to pay you to say that you were paid.
Yeah, I'm going to bribe you to say you were bribed.
Honestly, well played, John McAfee. Fucking money spends differently in Belize.
Yeah, also, here's our fucking S. What I'm hoping, by the way, is that as you listen to this, the image of an eccentric man, which is extremely charitable here, melts away, and you can finally start to see what kind of a person John McAfee really was. We've got murder and rape allegations, and we're like halfway through this episode.
Yeah.
Now, although John was able to get away with a lot in Belize, Gregory Fall's killing put the fear of God in him. He fled the small island nation when he was named a person of interest in the case, citing that Belize is still a pirate haven and is run more or less along the lines established centuries ago by the likes of Captain Morgan, Blackbeard, and Captain Barrow.
Which is exactly why he moved there when he fled the United States not that long ago.
Yeah.
Before we move on, you mentioned the eccentric billionaire starts to melt away.
Yeah.
As of this very second, John McAfee is manufacturing, or allegedly manufacturing, gas station truck stop crank.
Yep.
Bath salts. I just love the word crank. It's hilarious. Anyway.
It is a great word, isn't it?
It just has so much more chutzpah than just crack. That's crack. Anyway.
It sounds like crack that you would find in like curb water type thing.
Yeah, it's like the step down or up, whichever way you're looking at it. But he's manufacturing fucking barely legal truck stop crank, the person that he convinced to drop out of Harvard. He is allegedly a rapist and a murderer. And am I missing anything? Oh, he's also a paranoid narcissist the entire time.
The whole way through. Yeah, he's trying to paint himself as the hero. So off John goes, joined by a crew from Vice News who accidentally revealed his location while making a documentary about his life, which is hilarious, and I'm sure he loved it up until they got him caught. I fall victim to the inescapable bits here and there, but never have I lived in my own filth for an extended period of time just to play a bit. But he apparently sailed over to Guatemala in his flea-infested little boat, and when he disembarked for the sunny Guatemalan coastline, he was quickly apprehended and thrown in a Guatemalan jail cell. Now, I don't know for certain, but I don't feel like Guatemalan prisons would be too much greater than a flea-ridden yacht.
That is a question for Locked Up Abroad, which John was. But I guess, you play action hero games, you get action hero prizes.
Pretty much. Yeah, it'd be a bummer to be playing those games in your late 60s, but here we are. He was charged with entering the country illegally and was held for a week.
I wonder what John McAfee's views were on immigration.
Right?
I don't have to imagine that hard, I don't think.
I don't think I have to venture that far to infer what those would be. Yeah.
Fucking John.
Yeah. He was charged with entering the country illegally and was held for a week. And as he tells it, the wily old poop faked 2 heart attacks to buy his lawyer time to get him sent to the U.S. instead of back to Belize. And so it was. In no time at all, John was on a plane headed back to Miami. While on the plane, onlookers described him as being a tired and sad-looking 67-year-old man, which I think checks out. Some say that he just had anxiety attacks, but I feel like leaning into your age and having people buy the fact that you're dying of natural causes would do some real damage to the old self-image, right?
Yeah, somebody help this poor, helpless old man. Is anybody a doctor here?
We need a doctor and a change of pants for this senile old geriatric man.
And a change of... Dude, John McAfee would shit himself for the bit. Say what you want about John McAfee, but he would shit himself.
John McAfee would load his pants for the bit. Yeah. I think in his heart he knew that the only thing from this ordeal that was truly over was his relationship with his 20-year-old girlfriend who accompanied him throughout this evasion attempt. And this probably hurt too.
Yeah, no, we really should have organized this episode by girlfriend, because every phase of John McAfee's life is earmarked by the beginning and ending of another inappropriate relationship with a much younger woman.
I'm laughing because the very first marriage of his was the exact same. He was like a grad student teaching a class, and he married one of his students, and that got him expelled. This has been going on the whole time. Anyway, he deplaned and met and married a sex worker in Miami and then moved to Oregon in short order. During these initial years back in the U.S., he lived out of hotels, pretty much only claiming that he was being tailed by the government of Belize and effectively doing his best to evade these imaginary captors.
And you might be thinking, oh, so he stayed in Miami for a little while and he eventually found a sex worker and decided to marry her. It was pretty fucking instant, dude. It was the day that he got off the plane.
Yeah, that he met her that day.
Yeah, and dude, the interviews with her are wild. Because she's like, he seemed like a good option at the time, and I hung around. With this particular relationship, and I can't remember her name, that was one of the first times when I was watching these documentaries, all right, who's playing who here?
Right.
She seems really...
self-aware.
Yeah, self-aware of what's going on, and is it was better than I was doing before, so I kept going.
She's like, most of my decisions are made sight unseen, and at first glance, he seemed like a pretty good John. Rim shot.
Rim job. Anyway, game recognized game. I really appreciate her as a character.
Yep. Good hustle, chick. In June 2013, he filmed a video called How to Uninstall McAfee, where there are girls, and John's mostly naked body, some white substance that I suspect is actual bath salts, and some guns. He claimed that the video was a critique of how the media portrays him, and it wasn't. You can tell, he was trying way too hard.
He was trying to go viral, and he did, kind of.
In a sad, weird, sort of Discovery Channel kind of way.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm gonna recant the Discovery Channel thing. It's like a History Channel thing, where it's yes, we all know the pyramids. We all know the pyramids. But have you ever considered the involvement of aliens?
So unhinged that I just can't look away.
Yeah, for a second. It's called How to Uninstall McAfee. Someone might genuinely look that up after buying a Walmart computer and being stuck with that shitty software. And there's a video of the founder, face caked in bath salts, mostly naked with a gun in his hand.
And you're like, what the fuck? I should get this off my computer.
God, I'm at work right now. Why is this happening? Yeah, John can't escape the bit. That's the big thing here. But Intel bought McAfee antivirus for like $7 billion. And soon after changing the name, which John claimed to love, they demerged the software, which continued existing, much to John's supposed chagrin, as McAfee Inc. So McAfee got by at this point in his life by serving as a security expert for Fox News.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that. Holy shit. Holy shit. Oh, Fox News. They say that they fell far, but fell from where? Dear God in heaven.
They were always in a weird fringe.
John McAfee was the security expert for Fox News. I have to look up some fucking interviews. Like, was he actively tweaking on bath salts while he was talking about security?
Tell Sean Hannity that I found some cream cheese. I think some guys are tailing him. Yeah. In August 2015, he got a DUI and caught a weapons charge in Henderson County, Tennessee. This, by the way, is where he lives now at this point in his life, in Lexington, Tennessee. He's done some running from Belize, but has assured his would-be captors very publicly, as always, that here he was, and he had guns ready in case they wanted to square up. He even caught charges for them to prove that he had them. Unfortunately for John, though, his home wouldn't be stalked by the government of Belize. It was stalked instead by the Mexican cartel, who would lurk in John's backyard and eat shit tons of cream cheese. That's real. That wasn't just a dive way off the deep end there.
Well, not by us.
Yeah, right.
That might have been the bath salts talking. I don't know if we've explicitly said this at this point. I don't know how big of an allegedly we need. I don't think we need an allegedly at all. John is doing copious amounts of these barely legal bath salts. He has graduated from cocaine into something new and terrifying. And it is making his brain tell him that cream cheese in his backyard is proof that he is being tailed by the Mexican cartel for some reason.
Yeah, and let's be clear, like, cream cheese packets in your backyard is weird, but it's not people are coming to kill me weird. Like, if you're hunting someone, you're not going to leave packets from the cream cheese you're guzzling in their backyard. How do you kill and run away after eating an entire block of cream cheese?
I would literally be shitting in my pants as I ran.
Yeah, like there'd be DNA everywhere. It's a nightmare. So yeah, the arbitrariness around bath salts. Bath salts, you're getting vivid hallucinations, days of extreme paranoia after the fact, and they are incredibly addictive. Far and away the worst thing that has ever been in a legal gray area and proliferated through the US are bath salts. They are fucking metal. And the bath salts that he's taking are on par with like Crocodile, which is this insane Russian shit that like melted people's faces or something. It's nuts. He's like manufacturing it and doing it. He's literally getting high on his own supply, and his supply is like the supply. Yes. So here we have a wealthy and drug-addled man mumbling about cream cheese. What better place for him than the highest office of the land, the White House? Oof, that hurts. That hurts. Yeah, political election year, baby. Yeah. A month after his DUI, John McAfee announced that he was throwing his hat in the ring for the presidency. He felt it was time for a change, and that this change should be ushered in by the Cyber Party. Yeah. Now, it totally sounds like the bad guys in a video game. It sounds like the bad guys in Inspector Gadget 3. Straight to DVD release. Oh, yeah. Now, I've done some very light research on what the Cyber Party stood for, and from a mile up, I actually agree with a lot of the party's objectives. Its political ambitions were a hair acute, but the changes are still needed to this day. Basically, the Cyber Party wanted to address America's rampant government surveillance issue, which is still huge, though he had no comments on surveillance being conducted by the private sector, which was already getting noticed at this point. It was just like, make the government stop that. No word on Amazon putting microphones in people's houses or what companies can do with the data or can't do with the data. He submitted required documents for party incorporation to the FEC, created a website, and then true to form, he bailed and decided instead to run as a libertarian.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the libertarians. Yep. Now, despite his campaigning and promotional efforts, like pretending he could decrypt the San Bernardino shooter's phone, the Libertarian Convention rolled around in late May at the depths of the COVID pandemic, and delegates handed the nomination to Gary Johnson instead.
Important note, John McAfee was the runner-up for the Libertarian candidate seat. I can't imagine there was anything in John's body, be it bath salts or disembodied voices, telling John that he stood a chance of winning in November.
Yeah, if we're giving John the benefit of the doubt, we're assuming that this whole thing was just an effort towards self-promotion. Grift, if you will. And to that end, it sort of worked. John McAfee walked off the campaign trail, ankle bracelet still probably going nuts, and adjourned to his newly secured position as the CEO of MGT Technologies. Now, up to this point, MGT had chosen to get involved and purchase stakes in pretty low-value, like, social gaming services. We've all heard of these. It's the kind of worthless, kitschy platforms that were never taking off, like Draft Day, for example. Just worthless, garbage bullshit, right?
Like the AI-generated ads you see when you're trying to play a game on your phone that you actually like.
Yeah, I'm actually making a joke here. Draft Day is like a quadrillion-dollar company now.
I didn't know
like
that.
The sports betting took off, and it's just exploded.
I hate sports betting.
I hate it so much, but yeah, that's what they were investing in. And up to this point, they'd chosen that, and John saw through all of that and said, to hell with gaming, to hell with sports betting, I see the future. Our path to prosperity lies not with sports betting, but with the thrilling new enterprise that is cybersecurity.
Hell yeah.
Now we're cooking. They tried to rename the company John McAfee Global Technology, or effectively just add a J to the front, like JMGT, but a lawsuit by Intel claiming the rights to McAfee's last name put a stop to that plan. That's an insane thing that just happened there.
Like, what a fucking sentence that I just heard. Like,
Intel claimed his name and won. That's nuts.
Well, I mean, I'm sure their argument was, we paid a lot of money for that name, homie.
Everyone hates it, but I mean, what are we going to call this thing, Intel? Like, hell no, it has to be its own
We don't
thing.
want our name tied to this. Everyone hates this thing, but it still somehow makes us money.
Yeah. So, all right, soon after, John claimed that they'd found a way to hack the Android interface. This was MGT's first, like, holy shit moment with John at the helm. Look out, Google. He sent a series of phones to journalists to like prove that he could read encrypted WhatsApp messages, like send someone else stuff and I'll show you that I can hack it. But the journalists soon discovered that he had installed malware on the phones to create a backdoor to read these messages.
Dude, I got to appreciate taking a page out of his old book. Like, this is literally what got him rich in the first place. So the fact that he was like, well, shit, it worked once. I can create a panic all over again, and I'm the security expert for Fox News. They'll listen to me. I still can't fucking get over that. I cannot get over that, and I will not get over that. But I mean,
right.
So he was doing the exact same thing. Like, we know where the malware came from.
Yeah, right. And this is for real how he played this. Like, yeah, duh, there's malware on the phone. Like, tell Google to call us. We'll work it out with them, and then we'll just share what we did with everyone else. We just need the money first, and we'll share it with everyone. Problem solved. This is another one of these grifts for which John has grown such a fondness. On a completely unrelated note, John saw the writing on the walls for the future of the groundbreaking cybersecurity field and realized that if they wanted to stay relevant in the market, it was critical that MGT Capital incorporate the blockchain and thus Bitcoin into its business plan.
Ding, 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 ding. We need to add a fucking letter for cryptocurrency. Because the Venn diagram of people who promote crypto and grifters is a fucking circle.
Oh, it's the same group. Yeah. Also, he did it because, in theory, in his mind, Bitcoin could be a good moneymaker for the company.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Now, here, John just goes all in on cryptocurrency, and this is where his focus will remain. Towards the tail end of his run as CEO of MGT, he enthusiastically announced on Twitter to all of his fans that he planned on eating his own dick on national TV if Bitcoin didn't reach 500,000 by 2020. I hope MGT, by the way, thanked him for all this free promotion. Like, I'm sure they were thrilled, right? The CEO posting shit like that on Twitter. Shortly after this, I'm sure this is just disjointed and just because of other circumstances, but John stepped down as the CEO of the company. Sorry. Serving instead as the company's chief cybersecurity visionary.
Dude, imagine the board meeting of all of his underlings where someone pulls up Twitter in the middle of the meeting because it's boring, and they're like, hey gang, our boss just said he was going to eat his dick. Somebody reported to that guy. That was somebody's boss told the world they were going to eat their dick on national television if Bitcoin didn't reach $500,000 by 2020.
Imagine you're in that same board meeting and one person is like looking at their phone under the desk on Twitter and they see that and begin verbalizing it. And as they're verbalizing it, they realize that John McAfee is on the other side of the boardroom table. And he literally just sent that tweet. Like he sent that during the board meeting and they have to do a sort of, I think it's smart. I think it's an eccentric thing to do. Good job, John.
Wow, John,
for the company.
You are full of ideas. Always keeping us on our toes. But anyway.
Yes. A few months later, John leaves. Both parties claim that the split was amicable, but all signs, unsurprisingly, point to the idea that investors just wanted John gone. So he left. It doesn't look like Sentinel-1, his cybersecurity platform with MGT, went anywhere, and it also doesn't look like the company has fared too well since his departure. And that's not to say that the company needed him, more that the company parted ways with him and then got in trouble for a lot of his decisions, or the ramifications thereof. Like in 2022, it appears they were sued by the same shareholders that advocated for John's ouster for like pumping and dumping.
Leave it to a grifter.
Yeah, leave it to a grifter. Here's a good rule of thumb. If a business person has a fan club, they have either built this fan club with the intention of conning the participants or will eventually decide that it would be wise to con the participants.
Yes, consult your doctor before choosing to trust a business person with a fan base. Side effects of doing so may include, but are not limited to, investing in stocks, buying stupid cars and trucks, buying crypto, NFTs, or virtual real estate, voting for such a business person as they run for office, advocate for a raise, or supporting them financially as they fight civil suits in court or offer a masterclass.
So here we are in 2018. John McAfee is out at MGT, but still just head over heels for crypto. So naturally, as he doesn't have a day job and he still has enough money to get by, he begins offering pointers for his followers on Twitter as to which coins they should be investing in. And 6 months after this very lucrative venture begins, he decides to reveal that he's been promoting these coins in cooperation with the coin creators, and he's been charging $105,000 per tweet.
Jesus.
We in the biz call that fraud.
Oh yeah,
and foreshadowing.
and out of the business from a legal standpoint, that is fraud. Yeah, that's what that is.
Very technically, yeah. It's fraud. Yeah, and I don't think there's much allegedly about it. He tweeted bragging that this is what he was doing. He can't stop grifting and he can't stop bragging about the shit.
The man is his own worst enemy.
In so many ways. In May, he announces in a video that he's going underground to evade the SEC. No surprise there.
We in the biz call this foreshadowing. And I feel like I've mentioned this before. John fucking loves being on the run.
Loves it.
It is his favorite fucking thing. He manufactures reasons to be on the run.
The fleas, the staph infections, just all of it. He's so into the shit.
Whether it is the drugs or the narcissism, I don't know. But he gets so into it. He puts on disguises.
Truly! He didn't go out and buy that blonde wig just for that one bit, did he? I'm just now realizing that he was definitely just wearing that around Belize.
He went and bought the disguises and then manufactured reasons to need them, and they all include crime. It is just the wildest fucking ride to observe. At some point, you have to just accept he wants this. This is the life he wants to live.
Yeah. And also, for anyone listening, I suggest last podcast on the left has a thing on Bonnie and Clyde. and their on the run experience, and they do an excellent job of highlighting just how brutal life is on the lam. I mean, you're starving. There's never really any money. And the money that you have to be very careful about spending. Everyone's looking for your face, and that's before camera phones or TVs or anything like that. In general, it's a miserable experience. To put yourself in this situation more than once, I feel like I'd rather be in jail.
Well, and he's so bad at it because he loves being recognized. Like, he'll take off the wig that he put on for the bit and is like, do you know who I am? And the person's like, no, I have no idea who you are. Why would I know who you are? And he's like, I'm John McAfee. And then we'll proceed to tell the person why he's famous. If you have to tell someone why you're famous, you're not famous.
You're not famous.
You're on the run, dude. What are you doing? Sorry.
He takes the blonde wig off, and it's like, do you know who I am? And it's like, you have blonde frosted tips underneath the wig. Why did you do that?
This was a waste of a good wig. I am so confused right now.
There's blonde hair under the blonde wig. What is going on?
It is, sorry.
It's okay. That's how it goes. In August of that same year, he's brought on as the CEO of a company focused solely on crypto called LuxCore. And let me tell you, this company really rolls with the punches. Over the next 8 months, which is the entirety of his run as CEO, when he isn't running the company, their CEO is in all sorts of headlines. In January of 2019, he announces on Twitter that he hasn't paid taxes in 8 years. What a decree.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. And decides as a result of this that it's probably wise to go back on the run.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. In March, a Florida court orders John to pay $25 million to the Fall family for damages that resulted from his apparent killing of Gregory Fall in Belize. Another wrongful death thing. Unsurprisingly, he's never going to pay this amount. Same deal with his other wrongful death suits. He and LuxCore parted ways in May, and in July, John and his crew were arrested and held for 4 days in a Dominican Republic jail. He's really doing the around the world on little cramped, humid jail cells. He was thrown in here, by the way, on the suspicion that he was carrying great big guns in the small country, which he was. He was definitely doing that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that's like half of his thing. He also upped his dick eating bet. Bitcoin was now going to reach $1 million sometime in 2020, or that's right, he's eating it on live TV.
God, that is such a cool thing to say. Like,
that you're going to eat your dick on live TV.
I now want to be confident enough in something to be like, I'll eat my dick if this happens, or I'll eat my dick if this doesn't happen. Like, what a bananas thing to say. Truly unhinged. I gotta respect it.
And here's the thing is, with all the craziness that's preceded that statement, it's unfortunate that it probably didn't move the needle too much coming from John.
No.
Like, imagine Jim Cramer offering to eat his dick on live TV if the video didn't hit a certain threshold. Like, if I heard that from Jim Cramer, I'm investing.
Honestly, if Jim Cramer did just a little more bath salts, I would really enjoy watching Squawk Box.
I would tune in every fucking day. He already has the TV station backing. Like, he's got the show. He's got the time slot on which he will be eating his dick. The following month, John agreed to and wrote the white paper for a Chinese altcoin called China Zombie Coin. Now, Money Mike, can you break down what white paper is? I
can read to you the Investopedia definition. Absolutely.
That would be terrific. Yes.
The Investopedia says it's an informational document issued by a company or not-for-profit organization to promote or highlight the features of a solution, product, or service that it offers or plans to offer. It's promotional material. Unlike a prospectus, it probably doesn't have to be filed or something like that.
Fair enough. We've all learned something. So he was given $4.5 million and 20% of the entire issuance of Zombie Coin. And I'm quoting that directly from the source. True to form, he tweeted a jaded but surprisingly candid announcement of his involvement with the coin, saying, I have accepted an advisory position with China Zombie to help them with the CZ coin creation and promotion. I will be shilling them heavily. You have been warned. I want no flack. Thank you. Before really spreading it on with this stupid shit a few days later. The anti-zombie medallion from China Zombie keeps zombies from eating you. They also allege that holders of CZ zombie coins will be able to negotiate with zombies, making them to do zombie stuff on your behalf. I purchased their entire first run. Can't be too careful. When he finally published the white paper, it held some surprising notes from the author. Some examples are as follows. And again, these are direct quotes from the source.
I, John McAfee, was retained by South China Zombie Research Center to author a white paper for their ILO. I was paid a ridiculously large amount of money upfront for me to take on this project. So much so that it is embarrassing to even talk about. So much that even Mother Teresa might have lied through her teeth in order to keep it. I was also promised a staggering percentage of the coins. The amount of cash up front that I was paid was $4.5 million. In addition, I demanded and received 20% of their entire intended issuance of the coins.
After this, he said he would have sold his children into slavery for this sort of money, and later in the document adds,
I believe that. But even if someone held a gun to my head, I could not muster any statement more positive than, do not invest in this shit coin under any circumstance, at any time, for any reason. Okay, dude, at this point, if he did get paid and then he shat on this coin that hard and disclosed that he would be shilling for it, this might be his, slightly redeeming moment in this story.
It's his magnum opus, I think. I mean, in the crypto ventures, I think it's his moment at the top. And also, I think it is the one really genuinely, without context, bawling ass thing that John McAfee
dude, that shit is fucking killer.
It's so cool. It's the only thing. I mean, keep in mind, this guy is a rapist and murderer.
Yeah.
He should not be glorified. He's not eccentric. He is a sick man who did one kind of cool and unhinged thing. Also, because of his libertarian, government have money, bad, individuals have money, good thing, he'll never really make this a David versus Goliath story, which really ruins his main character syndrome's potential for a cool arc. Because you know who might have really killed John McAfee for real? These motherfuckers.
If this coin was backed by the Mexican cartel, honestly, John might have been onto something.
Really, truly. I see this as his greatest affront to anyone, period. He came in, took the house for millions, and then used his platform to burn it the fuck down. I feel like if I were a dipshit crypto bro founder here, I would be aching to kill this guy. The founders tried suing him for $100 million, but we've all seen where that goes when you try and sue John McAfee. The following January, John McAfee goes on the run again from the U.S. government. He runs for president on the Libertarian ticket while on the lam again, and he continues his little shenanigans as always.
He creates an altcoin called Ghost Coin that was a naked con, for example.
Until June of 2020, where he's arrested in Spain and imprisoned for a year. He swore he would never kill himself, but because of the blatant crypto pump and dumps that made John and his associates around $18 million, and the tax evasion charges to which he confessed.
Yeah, not paying taxes for 8 years will do that to you, John.
Yeah, that were waiting for him at home. He was facing at least 80 years in prison, and we think he killed himself and wanted a little mystery to follow his death. Cut and dry. Life stories are manufactured, and they don't necessarily end in death. They end when the story reaches a natural conclusion, when the star of the show gets off and gets away from the bucking bull. After that, it's an epilogue. It's all epilogue. The folks who care about you as a character will keep their eyes on you as you make your way back into the crowd. But the audience as a whole is going to be watching the next person in the ring. What John always wanted was more story. I don't think it's a coincidence that this inclination is most evident among friends of mine anyways who self-identify as libertarian, but I see it everywhere. I think most of us have built a world in our heads where we're the star, and there's an arc and a conclusion that we're longing for, and we seek to emulate those who inspire us. And maybe you want to go into business and your media literacy isn't sufficient to understand why you wouldn't want to be Don Draper from Mad Men, so you seek to emulate Don Draper from Mad Men. Maybe you're like me and pretend to be the kind of person who has the media literacy to enjoy Mad Men in general, and you force yourself to watch the entire show. Maybe you're going into the military and you're imagining your opportunity to be whichever action hero, or maybe you're a cop and you emulate John McClane from Die Hard. But eventually your story comes to an end. And as Kurt Vonnegut puts it, you have to begin your epilogue, where there's just odds and ends and junk to tend to. You've climbed Everest. You've saved your wife in the notorious terrorist attack on the Nakatomi Tower. You've sold your company, and you never have to work again. The problem now is, even though you got the ending that everyone wants, that your often imagined audience was hoping for you, the story is in fact over, and now you have to carry on living. Now you have to climb back down Everest, which is the part where a shitload of people die. You show up in the paper for thwarting all those terrorists, but the day after Christmas, your wife told you that she still can't make the relationship work, and now you have to do all this damn paperwork, and as a thank you, the city of Los Angeles gave you a gift card to Ruby Tuesday, which is disappointing and is making you question all of your life choices. To some, this can be devastating, where some get boring and docile, others turn to the bottle, and others still, like John McAfee, just keep adding chapters. John's 8 seconds ended in the 90s, but he had no intention of getting out of the ring and letting another cowboy square off against the beast. Someone allegedly kills a 67-year-old John McAfee's dog, and it looks an awful lot like John murdered the man. To the rest of the world, before this action, John is a retired old man with a reasonable claim in a civil case. But John McAfee, in this moment, looked in the mirror and saw John fucking Wick.
And with that, it's time for crutches.
Yep. Consumer harm. That was this whole episode. He was just harming consumers. People died. People lost their ass. It's the whole thing.
So, like, if you manufacture a really good drug and, like, people get addicted to it and die, is that consumer harm? Or, like, were you a good drug creator?
If you were selling it for a fair price, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to ponder that in the next episode. Rich
right?
parents, not in the picture, but he does get the U for union suppression and employee abuse. Ask his partner at Quormex about it, or his nephew who died while working on his light aircraft venture. So many people just die around this guy. I forget how many bodies are just lying in this man's wake.
Like, I feel like the only way to get a body count like his, which as far as we can tell is somewhere around 4, is to be on the front lines in a real war. Not even like an occupation, like war.
That's like Iraqi drone pilot numbers.
Yes, it is.
Well, maybe for a day or two.
Yeah.
But
T is for tax evasion. I don't think anyone has earned this letter more prominently and more stupidly than John has. Everyone else is like, look at all this evidence of tax evasion. And John's like, well, I did it. 8 years of tax evasion.
Imagine being the lawyer in his final case, like, all right, well, what evidence do they have against you? And he just plays the recording of him saying he's avoided taxes for 8 years. He's like, what the fuck?
What do I do with this? I can't plea insanity. It's a white collar case. They don't give a shit. C for child labor and abuse allegations. 17-year-olds are considered children. And boy, howdy, did John have a field day there.
If I'm remembering correctly, it went younger than 17. I don't remember what the age of consent is in Belize, but it was a yucky number.
Whatever it is, John breached it. I mean, we really chose to go light on this front, but trust us.
Yeah, what's there to say there that we want to talk about? You know, icky.
Really nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. Harassment allegations. Yeah. I mean, see, the founder of Quormex, I think we're double dipping here, but the dude harassed his ass off. Egregious behavior after hours. Yeah, this dude never stopped being egregious.
It was his whole thing.
And like his whole thing was, I don't actually want to work. So all hours were after hours, and he was being egregious the whole time. So yeah, the 17-year-olds, the lies, the murder allegations, the drugs. What? Take your fucking pick, dude.
Yeah, he's one of those serial criminals, fugitives, if you will. Yes. Slap suits. See the bribes he paid to interviewees of the documentary that sought to expose him. This is the poorest person we have ever covered who has the S. He has the S for slap suits, and at that time he had like $4 million.
Dude, we just need $4 million, and then we can go to Belize and
be evil warlords.
Yeah, why does that sound so cool? No, I'm just kidding.
Right? Yeah, bad dude from modest means. That's the gist.
Yeah. Yeah, he really did do a lot of billionaire crimes on a millionaire salary, and for that we have to give him a little bit of a nod. But that's John McAfee, everyone. Thank you for listening. We love you. We'll catch you on the next one.
Check out our shit, the Reddit, email us some leads. We got a killer one that we'll probably be doing an episode on in the future. Just the other day, actually, we're really excited. But we love you all, and like, comment, and subscribe, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah.